is Bart Blair, and I am a digital outreach strategist with Missional Marketing. And I'm joined on Zoom with my friend and the CEO of Missional Marketing, Jason Hamrock. Jason, how you doing today?
Hey, Bart, I'm doing great. Doing great.
Jason is in sunny Arizona. I am in sunny Texas. And what we're going to do is shine some light on the topic of church website SEO. Did you see what I did there? Sunny Arizona, nice. Sunny Texas, shine some light, some sunlight.
That wasn't planned, was it?
That wasn't planned. I just did that right off the top of my head. Feeling creative today. All right. We're going to talk about church website SEO. This is something that you and I have an opportunity to talk to churches about pretty much every single day. What I find when I talk to church leaders is that they have some they've had some exposure to SEO and maybe know some of the language, some of the lingo, but really not a thorough understanding of what search engine optimization is, how SEO works. And so what I'm going to get you to do here is just kind of talk me through some of the key components of church website SEO, search engine optimization. What's some of the low-hanging fruit, some of the things that we can do with our church websites that make them more Google friendly, more searchable. And then maybe we'll talk about maybe some of the more complicated things, but let's start with some of the low-hanging fruit. What are the easy things that we can do with our church website as it relates to SEO?
Yeah, well, the first thing I always do when I talk to a church about this is every church is going, I've heard of search engine optimization, and some people will say they know what they're talking about, but they kind of make it so you don't really understand it. So let me make really clear. There's two types of SEO in Google's world. We're talking about Google here, right? Google owns 92% of the market share. So 9 out of 10 people use Google. So we've got to play to the rules of Google, hands down. And so when we talk about SEO, there's two types. We have local SEO, local SEO, meaning it's a brick and mortar thing. Google wants to drive traffic who's looking for something like a church, and they deliver you in the Google local pack if you have your local SEO in shape. Different topic, different conversation. We have other content on that. Then the second type that we're talking about today is on-page SEO, on your website, your church website SEO, search engine optimization. And it's just what that is. You optimize your page or your content on your website so that a search engine like Google can search it, find it, and make sure it's in the organic search results when somebody is searching. So if you're looking for...
Wait, I'm gonna stop you. Okay. Organic search results. Yeah. What does that mean? Organic.
Yeah.
Organic.
Yeah, so let me explain it. So if you're looking for things like churches near me, okay? Really important. You'll get that page on Google. You'll maybe see an ad or two at the top. That's great. You're going to see the Google local pack, but underneath that, there's going to be 10 search results on every page of Google. Page 1, 10. Page 2, 10. Page 3, 10, and so on and so forth. Those are organic search results. You're showing up organically. Well, it's important to be in that space because as people are looking, they like to cruise through page 1, maybe even to page 2 or page 3, but they're looking for what's relevant to whatever they're searching for. And so we always break down your audience in 3 different rings. Ring 1 are people go to your church. Ring 2 are people looking for a church. And then there's ring 3. Ring 3 are felt need type of searches. I'm looking for how to fix my marriage, how to be a better parent, how to overcome an addiction, fix my finances, who is Jesus, like how to be forgiven, and a ton more. And so you really want to focus on your search engine optimization content on your website so that you have half a chance to show up organically when somebody is searching for that particular topic. So in a nutshell, that's kind of like SEO. So when I break that down a little bit, the biggest, most important thing about that is content. Google can't crawl a video. They can't crawl a PDF. They can only crawl content, text. But truth be told, there's several things that matter when it comes to optimization, like the URL name. Like, what is the URL? It's like yourchurchwebsite.com / if it's some long string of digits, that means nothing to Google. It needs to be whatever you're talking about. How to fix my marriage. Then the title of the page, how to fix my marriage. Then the opening paragraph, how to fix my marriage, and have those keywords in there, then have a body of content, text on the page, at least 750, 1,000 words, so that when Google crawls that page, they go, huh, these guys must be somewhat of an authority on the subject matter of how to fix my marriage. Well, we're going to grow them organically over time when somebody's looking for the help, because that's a good search result. Google cares about two things: making money, and they're really, really good at that, and they care about their users. You're never going to search for how to fix my marriage and see something for how to make donuts. That's not the way Google works. You know this. It's always wanting to be a match. So if you want to compete with other people that are also working on their organic search results, you got to do the right things.
Well, I'm going to stop you for a second. Okay. I want to come back to this idea of content, like 750 words on a website page. Like my church website does not have 700 words on any single page. So we're going to come back and talk about that in a minute. But one of the first things that you said when you started talking about this was, you said Google can't crawl this and crawl that and crawl that. What in the world does crawling mean? Tell me what that means.
So Google has these little spiders that will crawl your site, and they do this in nanoseconds, and they do it all the time. I mean, there's literally billions and billions of pages. And the way Google's algorithm works is they're going to look quickly through your website and through all the different pages. That's why it's really important to have a thing called a sitemap. It's like the front, when you read a book, you have your table of contents. It's kind of what a sitemap is. It kind of tells Google, these are these pages and this is how they're made up and where they are. And so Google crawls those things fast, right? And so they're looking for things. And if they don't see any content, then forget about it. You're never going to register in Google as competent. You must be an authority on this particular subject matter. So these little crawlers crawl all the time. They're crawling your website. They do it all the time.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. Okay, crawling. What are some of the other things besides crawlability that make a website Google friendly?
Lots of things. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'll speak into just a little bit deeper. Like I always see, and I did this today with a church. I was talking to them, and they were really proud of the fact they wrote a blog post. And it was a blog post dealing with how to speak to your kids about racial issues. Pretty relevant topic right now, September 2020. I don't have to say that, but they actually, I was so proud of them because they wrote a page and they like, Jason, we took your advice and we wrote all this stuff. I was like, awesome. You have a URL structure in place. You've got a title in place. You got lots of content. I said, but there's two things you're missing on this. Number one, I looked at the image. I right-clicked and looked at the name of the image, and it had nothing to do with the title of what race, how to talk to your children about race. It was just image_2433.jpg. Means nothing to Google. You want to name your image what that content's about. It's all part of the optimization of that page. Second thing from a user standpoint was there was no extra call to action. So just a side note there. I'm like, have some call to action so the user can actually do the next step. It's pretty important. That lowers your bounce rate, right? And if people engage on your site, Google sees this. You know, they're looking at analytics. You see time on site. You see engagement rates. So important to Google. But beyond just the crawlability of that page, there's a few other things that you really want to pay attention to. There's a thing called like a rank or a domain authority score that your website has. Google's giving it to you, right? And it's from like 0 to 100. You know, Google gets like a 99, and there's top websites that are just up there. Well, your website's in there, and they'll look at that. And there's ways that you can improve your rank or your domain authority. Number one, adding content. I'm telling you, adding content. One thing you could easily do: take your sermon from this past week and transcribe that and get that on that page with where you see the video, because you're adding like 2,000 or 3,000 words every week to your website. That helps your rank authority. Another little tidbit. I was on the phone. I had a lot of calls today. Another church in Texas had an issue with an associate pastor a number of years ago. He fell into sin, and it was a bad situation for him. Let's put it that way. The news caught it. They wrote an article about it. And so you Google this church's name, It's number 4 or 5 listing right there. That's the article from the local TV station about this scandal. And I said, they're asking, how do we get rid of that? Like, you're not going to get rid of it. You can't. Maybe we can help push it down. And I go, you know why you're never going to get rid of it? That's a news source. What's so relevant on a news source? This is a TV station that puts all of their content online. They literally have millions and millions of words on their website. They are a high rank authority because they're a news source. Google crawls their content, lots of text. Churches, we're on the opposite end of the spectrum. We think less is more. Let's show more images, less content because nobody reads. The problem with that is you've totally played against what Google wants, right? So you've got to work on content.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question on that, because this is something that I don't know if this is true or not. So if you know the facts here, you can straighten me out. But
okay.
So when Google crawls websites, like if I go online and I do a search right now and I searched, pizza restaurant in Texas, right? Yep. Google is not in that instantaneous moment sending those crawlers out at that particular second to go find that website for me.
Already done it.
Google has already done it, and it's stored that information in its own memory banks, right?
Right.
So this is my understanding of this. And again, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but because news websites are consistently adding content, Google has learned that Google needs to crawl those websites more frequently. Our church websites tend to be more static, and we tend to not add consistent content. And since we don't add consistent content, the website doesn't get crawled as frequently. However, if we were adding new content through blog posts or through the transcriptions of sermons and those sorts of things, do you believe our websites would be crawled more frequently so that we have a chance of actually showing up in organic searches more frequently?
Yep. Plus also resubmitting a sitemap, right? Running a XML sitemap of your site and resubmitting that through your Google Search Console and whatnot. Absolutely. That's the name of the game. If you don't have an active website, Google has no reason to pay attention to you. That's why it's so important to keep adding content to your website.
Okay, that's interesting. And I'm going to come back to content again, because really content is king, but I got a couple of other things that I want to ask you about. So you mentioned bounce rate when you were talking about the fact that our pages need to have calls to action, right? Giving someone an incentive to click again, like another click going further into the website, getting more information. What are some other things that might contribute to high bounce rates on a website?
Well, there's a thing called pogo sticking. You guys remember pogo sticks when you were a kid? Boing, boing, you jump on those, you bounce around your driveway. Pogo sticks, fun.
I actually,
wish I had more.
I've done it not too recently. Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, they're fun. Well, there's a thing called pogo sticking in the digital world. And you've done it, I've done it, everybody's done this. You've searched for something. I'm on my phone. I'm looking for something. And I'm like, I get a search result page, search engine result page. Maybe I see an ad, click on the ad. Or maybe I see an organic search result, I click on it. I'm now on that page, okay? If it's not what I was looking for, what do? I hit the back button. Where am I going back to? I'm going back to Google. And then I'm going, let's check out the next one. Click. Now I'm on that page. I'm like, that's not what I was looking for. What do? You hit the back button. Go back to Google. Look at the third one. Click. That's what I was looking for. And I could be talking about anything here. And I was like, boom, that's exactly. So now I'm engaged. I'm reading the content. Oh, call to action. Click next. I just went to the next page. Google knows this is happening. They are watching. And when they see pogo sticking happening, guess what they're doing? Those 2 websites that you visited and went back, they're like, probably not a good search result for our users. And if they see a pattern of that, well, guess what happens to your organic search result? You drop down because others are more relevant to what the user was looking for. That's a real thing, and that happens in real time. And it's been proven. You will see websites they'll drop because what they work to get up there is not what the users are looking for. So pogo sticking is a real thing. That's called a bounce. If somebody gets to your website and they don't engage and they leave, you just bounce. They just bounced. There's a bounce rate. And really, bounce rates are all over the place. If you're north of 60% in a bounce rate, you got some work to do. If you're in the 50s or in the 40s, you're doing not too bad. If you're in the low 40s and 30s or 20s, you're doing great. Because you can't expect everybody to like what they're looking for, right? Out of 10 people, it's just obvious that maybe 3 or 4 are just kind of like, that's not what I was looking for. But if you have like 7 or 8 that are not looking, then you've got a bad website. You got to work on some of that because people are not liking what they see. That could be an old website. It could be just calls to action are horrible. The images are bad. There's no benefit. They like, that's not what I was looking for. So bounce rates are a really big deal.
Now, I want to break that bounce rate down a little bit, just so to make sure that those that are watching this video understand those percentages, right? So when you say a 50% bounce rate, that means that half the people who come to my website leave before clicking on anything else or engaging with the content on the website, right? That's what that means. So 50% bounce rate. If it's 70% bounce rate, right, that means 7 out of 10 people that come to my website are leaving before they do anything else.
Right. And that really penalizes you in Google. That's not to say that they didn't get what they were looking for. Whenever I go to a church website and I see your address, your service times, everything right there on the homepage, I have no need to really click. That's what I was looking for. I'm out. Well, I think if you're actually looking to go to that church, it's okay to get a person to click one time. Don't make me think about it too much, but one time to see your service times and directions. I'll click once, okay? Don't make me click 2 or 3 or 4 times, especially if I'm new. But if you just gave me all that information on your homepage, I have no reason to click on anything else. So I probably will bounce. Does that mean that person's not going to come to your church? No, it means they've got what they're looking for. They left. So you kind of got dinged from Google standpoint because of the bounce, but you probably did help what they were looking for. So there's kind of a balance there, right? I'm always wanting to have really good call to actions on a homepage because it's your most important page of your website, especially above the fold, right? The very, very top section, that's what above the fold, at the very, very top of the page is the most important page on your entire website. Maybe next to your give page, because that's pretty important too. But your homepage above the fold, really, really important. And you got to have great call to actions and strong benefits. Never, ever, 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 ever put your mission statement there.
Okay, we'll save that conversation.
We'll save that for
another video. Okay. Now I'm going to share something. When I'm surfing the internet, one of the primary reasons that I will hit back quickly is if the web page loads too slowly.
Oh.
You want to talk a minute about speed and what the importance of website speed is as far as SEO is concerned?
Yeah. So there's a guy on our team who's really, really smart. His name's Jason as well. And he can talk really detailed about how a page loads and all the intricate details of that thing. He's really good at that. What I sum it up to be this. Okay. As soon as I hit return, I hit enter, I've clicked on either, I've typed in your URL or I've clicked on Google and I saw your website, I click. As soon as I start going there, there's a load time, right? On your website. And it starts usually with the top and it starts loading. And it's either pulling up the video that you put on there. It's pulling up all what's called the CSS, like how it builds, like all the colors and the images and the text and the font, and it's calling for all, it's loading up really, 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 really fast, ideally. Sometimes though, load speeds can be really slow. If you are north of 2.5, 3 seconds, you could have some problems, right? I have seen websites that took 16 seconds to load. Now, that's the laziness, because that means your web programmer added a photo that's like 2200 by 1600 and they just shoved it in that space. It takes time for the browser to load that up rather than optimizing it to just a small, short little thing, right? Or your videos or whatever it might be. You want to have fast load speeds. So you want to make sure your page is optimized to load really, really quickly, because again, like you just said, if I'm like loading, I'm out. I will give you a second or two. And if I don't see what I'm looking, I did that the other day and I was just like, are you kidding me? So as a client of ours, I'm going, you got to fix this load speed. It's crazy. And sure enough, it was like, we have a dashboard. It was like 12.87 seconds to load this page. Unacceptable. Google also recognizes this, and they know how fast your page is loading. Another thing could be your server that you're on. So there's a lot of ways to look at lowering the load speed, if you will, for a website. We got a technical team. They are unbelievable at this stuff. And if you have if you think you have a slow load speed, let's talk. I mean, we can at least help you fix that issue, because that's a big issue.
And Google actually has a developer tool called, I think it's called Google Speed Test. I think that's what it's called. And you can just load that page up, put your URL in, and it'll give you, and Google will tell you how fast your website is. There are a lot of, yeah, Google it. There are a lot of different things that contribute to a slow load time for a website. You've already mentioned images that are not optimized, video that's not optimized. And those things are actually things that most church communications people can actually handle. Sometimes those slow load times are a result of bloated CSS or JavaScript that needs to be cleaned up. There's more technical stuff under the hood. And I always say, you know, managing a website is really like maintaining a vehicle. There might be some basic things that you can do, but sometimes you need to get an expert under the hood to get them to take a look at it and diagnose why the website is loading slowly. So
yeah, and it's not very expensive, but it has huge benefits to do it. So you really got to do it.
Yeah, and sometimes churches will spend lots of money to build a website that ends up loading slowly. And that is such a waste. If you spend $5, $10, $15, or $20,000 on a website, it can be a real source of frustration if it's loading slowly. The last thing that I want to say about speed is that your own people, Ring 1, they will tolerate a slower load time because they have a specific agenda typically for being on your website. But new visitors, people who are checking you out for the first time, people who don't yet know you, if your first impression is a slow, struggling, slumpy website, that's a bad first impression. So fix your speed. Hey, I've used the phrase CSS. You used the phrase CSS. Cascading style sheet is what that technically means. Yeah. But those are actually the initials of the three things that are most important for website SEO. We've already talked about the C, which is crawlability, the first S, which is speed, and the third S, can you think of what I'm thinking? Security. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about security, website security.
Right. Yeah, the other day I had a call with the church and he was interested in using the Google ad grant. Whole nother subject matter. But he said, Jason, we really want to use this ad grant. I said, well, the first thing you're going to have to do is get a lockbox on your website. He's like, what? I showed him on Zoom. I said, take a look. See that little thing right there where it says unsecured? And it has a little red arrow there, or not a red arrow, but a red line. He goes, yeah. I go, that's because your website's unsecured. What's that mean? He goes, well, I explained to him that it's because your website is just HTTP, not HTTPS. It's not over secure. And so you'll know, just go to, use Firefox, use Chrome, and go to your church website. If you look up in the corner, it says not secure, not good. It's not good. That means you need to have a certificate, right? And that certificate will then make sure that your website is secured. And so it'll be a little green lock that says, yes, your website is very, very secure. And those, we can help you with that. It's a security certificate that will ensure to Google that your site is indeed, every page on your website is indeed secure over HTTPS. Why that's pretty important? Well, a number of reasons. One is browsers these days don't want to load a website that's unsecure because hacking can happen, spam can happen. They can drop some bad stuff on your computer. Hackers are doing that all the time. They're trying to figure out how to get your information. That's just one thing. If you're transmitting information, like if you're submitting an email, you'll never be able to go to an unsecure website and give online. It's just not going to happen. The bank or whoever's processing that's never going to allow that to happen. But if you want ads by Google or Facebook, you got to have a secure website. Now, they're cracking down on this pretty hard these days. And so it's just better to go get your certificate And we can help you out with that, but you got to do it, because not having a secure website also tells the user, sometimes you'll have this thing, you're entering a website that's unsecured. That's not really good for somebody who's thinking about coming to your church. I'm just saying.
Jason, this is another piece of security. Sometimes you can actually have a security certificate installed that encrypts it and makes it secure, but there are different parts of your website that are not secure because it's not installed properly, or security can be broken. And I actually encountered this yesterday. We're compiling a list of the top church leadership podcasts, right? We've got our own podcast, which we think is pretty good, but there's a bunch of others out there that are really fantastic.
Really
and I was doing some Google searches, and I was looking for a specific podcast that is a top church leader podcast. And while I could get to the main page, every time I clicked on the podcast link, my Chrome told me it would not let me go to that page because it was unsecure. So even though it was part of the same website, there were unsecure links or unsecure data on that page, and I couldn't actually access that top church leader podcast on their website because their security is broken on the website. I should call them and see.
Yeah, the SSL certificate.
I should call them and see if they want to buy security from us.
Yeah. You got to have that SSL certificate implemented throughout your whole website. And sometimes that happens, right? And sometimes it's an image or something's gone on, and you might not be able to figure that out. We can help you out in that space.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to wrap up here, but we're going to come back to a topic that we talked about periodically throughout our discussion, which is this whole concept of content, right? And this is a huge paradigm shift for churches to understand that less is not more when it comes to your church website. Having actual crawlable content on your website makes it more Google friendly and actually increases the possibility that more people will actually come to your website and find information that they're looking for. So you've talked a little bit about writing blog posts. Blog posts are a fantastic way of adding new content to the website on a regular basis. Sometimes the blog post can simply be, an 800 or 1,000 word summary of the pastor's sermon each week, something really simple. Right. It doesn't have to be new content. Maybe the new content that you add is actually sermon transcripts. Actually, sometimes pastors preach from a transcript, so they've already got it typed up. Sometimes you can use an artificial intelligence platform, an AI platform that'll automatically transcribe it for you, so you can put the transcript on the website. And I'm going to be clear, when we're saying put the content on the website, such as a transcript, we do not believe that any human being is ever going to actually read through the transcript, but Google will.
That's right.
And Google will always read it. And while Google is working on technology that allows it to read the videos, the content that's in the videos, I'm not convinced yet that they've fully mastered that, but they have mastered reading the content that's actually on the page. So we talked about blog posts, about sermon content. What are some other ideas that churches can implement to add more content to their church websites?
Oh, I mean, think about this. So, and I do this with every church. When I talk to a new church, I look through their website. I look for a couple pages. First page I look for is, do you have anywhere on your website that actually walks somebody through the gospel? Do you have anything that actually shares who Jesus is and what he's done for them? Usually, I don't find anything. I go, okay, well, it's probably a good starting point right there. I go, let's look at some other felt needs, because in my opinion, and if this is just common sense, but it's also been proven to see in search results, there's really 5 areas that you really want to focus on: marriage, parenting, addictions, finances, and of course, Jesus, like faith related. Start there, right? Start with building a page that actually answers somebody's question. So I'm a big fan of blog posts because I think we can we have a lot of DIYs out there. They want to do it themselves, but they're looking for help. They're looking for a guide. Just a little plug there on the story brand thing, but they're looking for a guide to help them with their problems. They want to DIY it. Well, a sermon's good. It's fantastic because it really can help people engage and get a flavor and get fed. You can have content about your ministries on there, but you really want to focus on the felt needs that people are searching for. And it's not so much just, here's some information, come to our Wednesday night Celebrate Recovery group. No. If I'm dealing with an addiction, start with answering their question, how to overcome one or how to help a loved one. That's where what would you say to them? Write that out. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. It's a page optimized that's focused on explaining and helping somebody who's trying to deal with that issue. You should do that for all kinds of felt need content. That's building pages. You can blog about it. A blog is typically almost like a journal in a sense, or the transcript on the sermons. All of those should be informative for the user, helpful for the users with call to actions on what they should do next. So,
yeah, I was actually on a call with a church yesterday that when we looked at their care ministries, they offered a premarital care ministry, a marriage ministry, a 12-step recovery ministry, a financial assistance and stewardship ministry. And these are the felt needs. But when we went and looked at the individual pages for each one of those ministries, and they basically all had about maybe a 120-word description of the ministry, and then a button to click on finding out when the next group was meeting or how they could sign up. And those are fine if you're expecting people to come through your front door and to know exactly how to get to that page.
Ring one.
Right, ring one people. But that will never track in terms of organic search. Never. And also, if you ever this was the conversation we had. I said, you know what, you need to, if you're doing Celebrate Recovery or regeneration, you've got this 12-step recovery program. You need to write 1,000 words on that page that describes what it is and what people can expect. Maybe share a story of someone who's successfully recovered, had a recovery story that's been a result of that ministry. And then clear calls to action on how they can connect and how they can get involved. And even better than just having that page for an organic search is actually run a Google search campaign, an ad campaign for that specific topic.
That's right.
It is, let's face it, it's hard. It's a lot of hard work to get real organic search traffic when it comes to those types of topics, because there are a lot of publications and a lot of websites that have been spending years to maximize their organic search quality, right? But we can run ads locally through Google search. So when someone in our neighborhood, someone in our community is Googling, help with my addictions, we've got an ad for our church and our recovery ministry that pops at the top of that page, and we can connect with people. I think of these recovery ministries, especially today, 2020, kind of, I don't know if we're in the middle of the end or where we are in the COVID crisis, where we're somewhere in the COVID journey here. People are hurting and people need help. And a lot of our churches they've successfully pivoted many of their care ministries to being able to minister to people online. And so being able to get those ministries out into the forefront and not just parking them on the backside of the website and hoping and praying that people find us some way. I think that's a shame, because we have so much to offer there.
That's right.
Jason, anything as we wrap up, anything that you want to add about SEO? Okay. I figure you probably did.
If I had to back up and I'd say, what's the most important thing when it comes to SEO? Backlinks, right? People are going to go, backlinks? Wait, what are backlinks? Backlinks are really, really important. Okay, what is a backlink? And then we'll wind it up. A backlink is where another website finds your website so valuable, they have a link to your website from their website. That's a backlink over to your web, not you linking out. Well, that might be a backlink for them, but a backlink from them to you. Why is that important? Well, if you're Google and they're looking at, well, how relevant are you as a website? You could have tons of pages, which is really, really good. And you can have tons of content, which is really, really good, and great structure, all that kind of stuff. It's really, really good. It's secure. It's really, really good. But they're also looking for backlinks. How relevant are you in the internet space? How many people find you so valuable that they link to your website? Very, very important. And not, you might remember the days, or you could ask somebody back before Google released one of their algorithms, I think maybe Penguin or something like that. You could go buy backlinks from some like India. Like you could just buy like 5,000 backlinks all of a sudden. Google's going, my goodness, there's 5,000 websites that think you have like, or something that's huge. Well, they see right through that now. You've got to have real backlinks from authority related type of websites, not just some rinky-dink website, but a really strong website. For example, a newspaper. If you had a backlink from a newspaper to your website, that is gold. I'm telling you, it's awesome. That's why whenever I tell a church, oh, you're redoing your website. Well, what are you going to do about all your old pages? Oh, we're going to throw those away. No, you're not. Because maybe 3 years ago, the newspaper wrote an article about some event you had. They linked to your event, and it was like a follow, like it's a real link, and it's still active. The minute you kill that page, guess what you just did? You killed that link, and that is website SEO suicide right there. You never want to do that, and so. It's one thing to go ahead and, which we can help you with this, is take an audit of the current backlinks you have, because you maybe have some bad backlinks, right? Some websites that are linking your website and you don't really want Google. That could be penalizing you, but you probably got some really good ones too. So when I talk about backlinks, I'm always saying, well, okay, Jason, how do you get more backlinks? Well, maybe there's some organizations you partner with in the community. Maybe there's some like an adoption agency, a food bank. Maybe there's some like international ministries you work with that if you ask them, hey, could you put a link to our website from your website? We'll do the same thing. That's a really, really good thing. We do that in missional marketing with some of our partners. We love to link to them and they link to us, and we're sharing SEO juice is what I like to call it. And so adding a backlink is really, really important. Now, we're not saying go get 300 backlinks. What we're saying is just start getting some more backlinks from some of your closer partners, right? That's just a really good thing to do. Maybe some of the businesses that that go to your church, business owners, maybe they could put a link on their website to say, I'm a proud member of my church, and here's a link. Why not? That could be a really good backlink. So there's just some ways and some strategies to add backlinks. So I got to tell you, it's probably pretty much the number one thing you can do to your website from an SEO perspective, add backlinks.
Yeah, I'll add a couple more to the list, right? You've talked about newspapers, huge. Press releases are a great way to get those backlinks from local newspapers.
Yeah.
Those are not always, we won't get into the details of this, but there's follow and no follow links. And a no follow backlink is not going to help. By the way, if you're trying to get your church listed on Wikipedia in your community, those are always no follow. So a link from Wikipedia will not help your SEO. Right. But Chamber of Commerce, sometimes churches and church leaders will join the Chamber of Commerce, get a link from the Chamber of Commerce. Working with local schools, maybe you do volunteer work in the school programs, maybe schools will have good authority on their websites. Your denomination is like a no-brainer, especially if you're part of a more substantial, well-known denomination that has a good website denomination, whether that's the whole denomination, like the main denominational website, or like a district that you're a part of. Those are some places that you can get some backlinks. Be creative, be strategic, make sure they're good. Don't go to Fiverr and hire someone and pay them $5 to get you guaranteed 1,000 backlinks. Those are not going to be quality. Yeah, that'll hurt you. Those are not going to be quality, relevant backlinks. Yeah. Hey, we should probably wrap this up. This has been pretty good. Interesting conversation for me. I hope it has been for those that are listening to this. All of the things that we talked about in this conversation today, we have members of our team that can actually help with all of these things: crawlability, speed, security. We even have some content services that we can provide as it relates to getting sermons online, or some of those felt need things that people might be searching for in your community, and we can help out with that. So visit our website, missionalmarketing.com. You can schedule an appointment. You can schedule an appointment with Jason, appointment with me. We'd be happy to have a follow-up conversation. And one thing I'm going to ask you to do, if you're listening to this on our podcast, if you listen on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Google Play, if you haven't left a rating or review for our podcast, would you do that? Because that's like the backlink. That'll help more people find this podcast. And we've been working hard to bring good content to you, and we'd love to be able to share it with more people. So please do that for us. Jason, anything else you want to add?
No. God bless you guys. I know it's a tough ministry season right now, but God is good and he's up to good stuff. So keep pressing on.
All right. Until next time, we're out of here.
Take care.